Okay. Okay, we are back to part two of our review here. We'll post both of these. We'll post both these together if I can edit them together. Yeah. So Javon Evans defeated Ethan Page. Fantastic match. I think they did a great job. And then finally, our main event, title versus title, Julia versus Stephanie Vicker. This match didn't really go very long. I think it was 8 or 9 minutes. There's been reports that Julia is injured, and I don't know if that's true or not, but it seemed like there was no doubt going into this match that Stephanie Vicker was going to win. And yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed the fact that they're both so over. The crowd, had dueling chants going for most of the beginning of this match, and yeah, it's a good match, and I think that they did a good job. I think it was the right, like, if you're going to do this match because Julia is injured, I think putting it on Stephanie Vicker is the right way to go. She's fantastic. Solid. I mean, yeah, solid show up and down, and I think that those two women, they have a bright future in front of them. They're both going to be world champions someday, and I hope that if Julia is injured, I hope she gets well soon because she's outstanding.
So, like you said, this is a tough match to call as far as both of them being healthy. Honestly, I have a hard time seeing Julia dropping the title if she's not injured some way. And obviously, if she's injured, putting it on Backer, somebody who is good to go every day, is the smart call. The match was real good, real hard hitting. Both of these women, like you said, have an incredible future in wrestling. They're another pair that I can't see being in NXT for very long. Problem is I kind of don't know that I want them to go to the main roster right away, especially considering the way that the main roster women are sometimes treated. You know what I mean? But yeah. I think that both of them would do very well on the main roster.
Yeah, completely agree. I did not watch AEW this week, but did you want to touch on anything that stood out to you from AEW?
I mean, from the parts that I watched, they're still continuing their Moxley pulling his Death Rider crap with not having the title there, and it's leading into another Cope versus him match, this time in I believe a street fight of some sort, which seems real weird to me for a title match to be a street fight. But as far as that goes, honestly, the sooner they can get past Copeland and Mox to Swerve winning the belt back is where it needs to be. Because, I mean, we both watch the AEW pay-per-view. That's the one thing that we always for sure generally watch. And the way that main event was booked, in my opinion, made its fans look like idiots. Like, having Christian come out, cash in the equivalent of a Money in the Bank at the dumbest possible time, just to then lose the way that he did to not even the guy who is his mortal enemy in the ring, just seems like the dumbest possible booking decision in my eyes. I don't know what your opinion on something like that is, but it felt poorly constructed, we'll say.
Yeah, I mean, I could certainly agree with that. I mean, I think, I don't know. I think if the plan ends up being to put the belt on Swerve, I think that's a good thing. I think Swerve is one of their biggest stars. And I mean, Mox has certainly been fine, although it certainly has seemed like it's been a bit of a Temu version of the Bloodline story a little bit
sure.
with the Riders. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, that pay-per-view, that AEW Revolution that they had over the weekend, there were definitely better matches with Omega and Takeshita and the
Ospreay
and Fletcher match, yeah. And I mean, even the women's title match with Mariah and Toni Storm was fantastic. So yeah, it should be interesting. I mean, I believe we had a couple of good matches, though. I know I saw that Hobbs and Hologram defeated Brian Cage and Drilistico, and let's see what else happened. Yeah, there wasn't really too much else that really happened on AEW.
I will always find it hilarious, though, that AEW's top people always fighting for the belts though are ex WWE people and never homegrown like indie people. But that's about my thoughts on this week's AEW. I only watched part of it. I didn't watch the whole thing. Next week I'll watch more of it so I can have a little bit more of an opinion on that side of things.
Yeah, and I mean, there are some fantastic wrestlers in AEW. I love Jay White. I love Will Ospreay. I think they do a good job. So, should certainly be interesting to see how they build off the back of that pay-per-view.
Oh, for sure. I'm a huge Ospreay fan. So,
all right. So then we move into Friday Night SmackDown, which opened the show with LA Knight celebrating his win last week, becoming the new United States champion, where he was quickly interrupted by Big Jimmy Uso, and shortly after that, being interrupted again by the Bloodline, Solo, Jacob, and Tama Tonga. And that quickly, led to chaos, which led to Braun Strowman coming out, and we had ourselves a good old-fashioned 3v3. And yeah, it's outstanding. The match ended with Braun Strowman hitting the running power slam on Tama Tonga. And then, you have Jacob Fatu getting back in the ring, beating everybody down, and Jacob Fatu standing tall at the end, because, of course, Jacob Fatu is absolutely not ever going to be the one to take a pin until he has his singles match with Roman Reigns at some point. Yeah, solid opener. And this whole SmackDown show was 1,000% better because of that crowd in Spain. It seems like whenever the WWE goes to Europe, like the crowds are outstanding, and they do such a good job. The crowds there, like
sure.
they don't get to see the wrestling as much as we do here in the States. And yeah, the crowd really helped elevate everybody on this show, 1,000%.
So I 100% agree with that. Whenever WWE goes out of the United States, it's almost like the continental Americas over here take it for granted because we get to see it so often. But those crowds, Australia, Europe, are always on fire. The and I think you're 100% right about Fatu. He is never going to take a pin, and honestly, he might actually beat Reigns. He might not even take the pin right away from Reigns. But I feel like we're gonna get another with the way he beat down Strowman. We're 100% gonna get another Strowman Fatu match where he'll win clean this time and not have it be like a non-match. And I feel like he is probably going to be the one to take the belt off of Knight. I don't know if it'll be in a singles match or a multi-man match at Mania, but I could see it being a multi-man match, maybe like a ladder match or something. Because there's a lot of people vying for that title. It gives you something to do with Jimmy, gives you something to do with Jacob, but gives you something to do with a bunch of them. Even Braun could all be in that like ladder match. And I could see Fatu being the one to hold that. And I could also see that being what leads to your Solo versus Fatu match that we seem to be slowly building towards.
I could see all of those things. And I certainly think that, at some point it's got to be Jimmy Uso too. Like, I could see them doing a feel good moment of both Usos having singles titles at WrestleMania as well.
Yeah.
With one with the world, with Jay beating Gunther, and then Jimmy somehow getting the title as well. Even if he doesn't hold it for a long period of time, it could absolutely be a moment. And WWE loves their moments.
Doing like what they did with that year that Zack Ryder won it, where he won it and then lost it the next night. I could see Jimmy winning it and then losing it on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. As we talked about a little bit earlier, Jade Cargill finally spoke to Kathy Kelly. She kind of thought Naomi was, called Naomi pathetic, more or less, and said she's ready to go. So we will certainly see kind of where this whole thing goes with her, and how they're gonna do this matchup. Liv and Raquel, they came out, they interrupted a little bit, and there was kind of just some nonsense there, but yeah, I think all the seeds are planted. Although I know you mentioned it earlier that you think it's going to be maybe a WrestleMania match. I don't know. I think this could be on the SmackDown before WrestleMania. I just don't think that I don't think that this match is going to be on WrestleMania. But I mean, I could be wrong.
So the problem is you have 2 nights worth of matches to fill out, and you're not going to want to not have Jade problem on that card, I wouldn't think. I mean, she is one of your quote unquote stars. Um, so if you don't have it be Jade and Naomi, how do you get her on the card?
That's true. I guess it's just, looking at history, right? WWE typically does such a bad job with the booking of women's wrestling, in general. There's only a handful of women that like make it to the card to begin with outside of the champions, right? Like look at last year. I mean, other than the 2 championship matches was the only other women's match that was on the card. The fatal 4-way tag team match or whatever for the tag titles. I think that was the only other women's match on WrestleMania besides the 2 championship matches. I mean, like, got to do a better job with that, and you got to do a better job. I mean, you got to do a better job with building up some of these stars. And for the stories that you do have going on, which we'll actually get into next, is we had Charlotte Flair versus BFAB, which, I mean, nobody thought BFAB was going to win, but
I honestly forgot who was there.
Yeah, we really have to do a better job with that story too. I mean, like, I hated Charlotte Flair winning the Royal Rumble. I knew it was going to happen, but I hated it. And, every single week since the Royal Rumble, which was January 31st, and we are now on March 16th, Charlotte comes out, beats up Tiffany Stratton, and just leaves her on the ground. Or Tiffany Stratton has a match, loses, and then Charlotte sits over her and just laughs at her. Like, what are we doing?
This was the first week where Tiffany more or less came out on top when she did that dive off of the screen, which was pretty cool. But you're right. Like, how do you have not only your champ being beat down damn near every week, but your champ losing that often? Like, I mean, yeah, it's like losses through like disqualifications and but a loss is still a loss. Like at the end of the day, it may not count, but you're not making your champ look strong. And I really had high hopes for Tiffany. She's got obviously an incredible look because she's gorgeous, but she's also incredibly athletic. Yeah. Like her skills in the ring. I mean, yeah, she botches occasionally because she's still relatively new, but
she's 24 years old.
Yeah, she definitely screws up a lot less than some of these people who have been in the game for a long time.
Completely agree. So hopefully they can just build this one up a little bit better for WrestleMania, because right now, honestly, I have next to no interest in seeing Charlotte Flair win this match at WrestleMania. Even if Tiffany wins it back somehow, like at Backlash or something, I'm just not super interested in this.
That's the problem, though. I mean, at this point, you and I both know Charlotte is going to win this match. It's almost as guaranteed as Bianca winning.
Yeah, you're probably right. We did have an awesome Drew McIntyre segment, just giving a backstage fire interview like he always does, because Drew McIntyre is outstanding. And it's very likely going to get him versus Damian Priest at WrestleMania. I don't love this for Drew McIntyre. I kind of wish he was in a bigger program, but I guess it gets him on the card. It gets Priest on the card, so I'm okay with it for right now. We got to build into something better for McIntyre. Go back to that being that Bloodline Hunter thing that they seem to just randomly drop. Yeah.
I mean, I like the fact that they're using that it was Priest that cost McIntyre in the chamber. It gives them an easy go-to storyline for it. Both of them are great in the ring, so we can expect a hard-hitting, great match. Honestly, I kind of wanted to have some sort of stipulation, Extreme Rules, something. I feel like that would benefit this type of match. Something that can have Drew come out swinging his sword at Priest.
I haven't seen the sword in a while. He's left the sword at home.
Punk probably stole it. But
when he lost the bracelet.
Yeah. No, I think that they obviously, I think they'll put on a great match. I'd like to see both of them move into higher feuds, but what really is there as far as higher feuds go on that side? I mean, who's the US champ right now again?
LA Knight. He opened the show.
And who's already going to be busier with Fatu and them. So, and that's your second highest thing on the show. So I feel like McIntyre Priest is about as high as you can get outside of that.
Yeah.
Which is tough. I mean, WWE is in kind of a tough spot on SmackDown. but they've always sort of had that kind of situation. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it's something we can get into in another video. I think it's really about the way people are booked on WWE and how it seems almost like there are just different tiers of wrestlers, right? Like, especially on the men's side, like Cody, Roman Reigns, maybe CM Punk a little bit, like, but especially Cody and Roman Reigns, they seem like they are way bigger stars than everybody else. Like,
Oh,
and
sure.
it's not close, and it just does not seem believable that somebody like Damian Priest is gonna defeat somebody like Roman Reigns or Cody Rhodes, right? Like if they were to have a match, like, you know what I mean? I don't foresee it like something like that ever happening. And I feel like you have to have, and maybe this is their way of like resetting it, assuming John Cena, comes out victorious at WrestleMania. You could have somebody take the title off of John Cena that we wouldn't necessarily expect. Give Cody a little bit of a break, and
I think someone like Priest beating Cena, um, you you're giving them a fresh start, basically, like you said, a reset. Cena wins. That's the problem though, is presentation. Um, Priest did as well as he did was because he had the Judgment Day backing him, which made them a threat. Which, yeah, kind of felt like a same sort of bloodline thing where they were always winning the exact same way. But
yep.
because he had that group backing him, you knew that was always a threat, and it gave him that advantage. Same with Roman with the bloodline. Roman always had that advantage because he always had one or two Samoans that had his back. Um, Whereas someone like McIntyre with his presentation is just presented like a killer. You know what I mean? It's the same thing that they try to do with Braun usually before he inevitably ends up getting injured. Just present him like a monster and unstoppable. Then you could put him into that kind of match and go from there. But when you have like 50-50, you don't see it as bad as it used to be under Vince with 50-50 booking, but you still see it occasionally. Like, tell me why, going back to Knight and Shinsuke for a second, why did Shinsuke even win the belt?
Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing stories that Shinsuke might even be like off the roster soon because he might not even be renewing his contract, but I don't know.
I mean, part of why I heard that he dropped it is that his brother in Japan died, which if that's the case, I completely get it. You know what I mean? But like, I still don't understand the point of him winning the belt. Like, you have LA Knight, who is a top merch seller, a huge fan favorite, and you have him randomly drop the belt to a guy who has lost more matches than he's won lately.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
But that's like, it comes back to the presentation of the whole thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. Drew McIntyre did himself, a huge service, right, with his feud with Punk last year, and we mentioned that at the top of the show. Like,
yep,
he'll be fine, and he'll certainly keep himself in the main event. And I could very easily see. I know he's kind of doing the SmackDown thing now, but I could very easily see him taking the belt off of an LA Knight, or even somehow finding his way back to Raw, right, and taking the belt off of Jey Uso when Jey Uso beats Gunther. You know what I mean?
I would be okay with that.
Yeah, so we'll see how
I
that one.
don't see Jey holding the belt very long, so
I don't either. Um, and we will absolutely get into having a predictions video for WrestleMania before that show starts. Probably be in and around the week before WrestleMania. All right, so then we had a Miz TV segment next, where that one actually went pretty quickly. Miz was going to interview Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes basically came down. Miz told him to shut off the song as the crowd was about to do their "Whoa, Cody Rhodes," and Cody kicked him in the face, hit him with the crossroads, and Cody Rhodes basically said, "I don't want to talk to anybody unless his name is John Cena," and he was really only there to just get that awesome Spanish crowd pop, and not much here, but should be really great to finally see that happen. I know we've kind of touched on that quite a bit here, so we'll just sort of move on to the next one.
Well, real quick though, I will say Miz had the line of the night with asking Cody how it felt to be in the ring with two rap legends.
The doctor of thugonomics.
Hey, don't ever put Cena down. He does have his doctorate. So
next, we had something interesting, though. A little bit of a teaser action going on here, and this was no doubt Rey Fenix. I mean, interesting that it was on SmackDown because I know his brother is on Raw right now. But
yeah, that surprises me.
yeah, it should be very interesting to see what they do with them. I don't know. I kind of don't want them to be a tag team like initially.
Not right away.
Yeah, I mean, because Penta's doing such a good job as a singles wrestler, and I could absolutely, if we do a multi-man match for the for the IC title as well, if we don't end up getting Styles and Braun just straight up, like I would love it if you put that belt on Penta for a little while. Penta's been a rock star, and they've presented him like a rock star since they brought him over.
So I think you're going to see Penta in a multi-man match anyway with him, Ludwig, and Pete Dunne at a minimum. Possibly at least one other person. Or the other thing I could see is them doing some sort of wonky like luchador match with a whole bunch of the luchas and Chad Gable in a lucha mask. I know that's just fantasy booking there, but
that's fun. That's fun though.
Though I think that Phoenix, I think it's kind of weird that they would put him on SmackDown right away or first, but I think it's better to have them separate and then have something come up where one or the other needs backup, and that's when you see them form the Lucha Brothers again.
Yeah, completely agree.
And I wouldn't mind if they brought in the guy who was their manager in AEW, Jose the Assistant. I would, because I don't think Phoenix speaks English as well as Penta does. So I think that would definitely help them. And honestly, with the way that WWE loves to make friggin' factions, I wouldn't be surprised to see if like Phoenix aligned with Andrade.
Yeah, I can see it. Speaking of folks we've mentioned several times here, next we had Damian Priest versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Obviously, you had your comments about Nakamura previously. There was no doubt that McIntyre wasn't going to come out here, cause the interference and the disqualification, and Priest
had left the building.
Right. So Priest is the winner via disqualification, but and Nakamura just definitely felt like a third wheel here. I mean, the match was fine; it was short, but
the beatdown afterwards was where it was at. That was the important part.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will say I love that McIntyre's Claymore can literally be hit from like a foot away. He's gotten so good at it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've touched on him quite a bit. Drew McIntyre is outstanding. And then one of the final matches of the night, we had Randy Orton making his in-ring return versus one Carmelo Hayes. And I mean, there was no doubt Randy Orton wasn't going to get the win here, but outstanding match. Randy Orton looks like a killer, like he always does, and he did a good job making Carmelo Hayes look good. Randy Orton picks up the win, goes for a handshake with Hayes. Hayes kind of rejects it, and then we get a returning Kevin Owens who pulls Carmelo Hayes out the ring. And Randy Orton goes after him, they shove each other a little bit, kind of pushes him into the barricade, and then kind of runs away after that. But this is very clearly going to be a match at WrestleMania between Orton and Owens. Kind of a shame that Carmelo Hayes is kind of made to look like a third wheel ever since he sort of came up to the main roster. I think they did a much better job with him in NXT than they're doing on the main roster. He kind of just seems like a guy who gets pinned a lot by people on the main roster. But Randy Orton looks like a killer, and I think his match with Kevin Owens is going to be excellent.
So I for sure have thoughts. Hayes always looks fantastic in the ring, and it's unfortunate that he doesn't get to win more. I really wish that they would allow him to get over, because the dude has the skills, the dude has the attitude. He just ends up looking at the lights way too often, and it's to advance other people's feuds. And you know what I mean? Rather than a story of his own. Like that set of matches that him and Andrade had, my God.
Outstanding.
why did we never get a better resolution to that storyline? Like,
Yeah, seemed like they dropped it at the end there.
exactly, and it was getting good use out of two guys who are underutilized and could be utilized way better.
Yeah.
But I think the bigger thing out of this match more so was, I mean, obviously everybody knew that KO and who plays the like cowardly guy who still sort of wants to fight persona pretty well. I think the bigger thing is that they teased Orton hitting the punt kick on somebody again,
Yes.
and I really think that that's how what's going to happen is your Mania match is going to end with Owens getting punted in the head.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely. Absolutely. They've been teasing it too hard to not give us the payoff there.
and Owens will be out for a little while after that because obviously they're going to want to sell that. And the pop that's going to get when Owens gets kicked in the head is going to be absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. Next, we had the surprising World Heavyweight Champion Gunther coming out, addressing the crowd, basically saying that he wants to prove a point to Jey Uso, and says there is one young kid, if you will, who the Spanish people love in Axiom, NXT Tag Team Champion, who we spoke about earlier, who came out, had a quick little match with Gunther. Axiom hit all of his big moves, a Hurricane Rana, Golden Ratio for a near fall. Gunther hit him with a bunch of chops and a few power bombs for good measure and got the win. Axiom looks like a star. Not ready yet for the main roster, I don't think, but I think this was just to get Gunther on the show in front of that amazing crowd, and give a kind of a hometown guy there a little bit of a rub, and just to sort of help to sort of build that feud up a little bit more.
100%. This was to get that hometown pop. I mean, and the nice thing is that it wasn't a squash match. They actually let Axiom look halfway decent, but there was no doubt that Gunther was just the way better in the ring, and they managed to show it off without hurting Axiom's character, I think.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, Gunther's one of the best wrestlers in the world right now. Like,
sure.
I would put him up against just about anybody. There's a handful of guys in AEW that my God, like I'd be salivating to see Gunther go up against, and I think
for sure,
phenomenal.
All right, Powerhouse Hobbs match. My God.
Oh my God, right? Like straight up, just give it to me, inject it into my veins.
For sure.
Next, we had the WWE 2K25. I mean Roman Reigns Day. I mean Paul Heyman coming out to give a Paul Heyman promo.
We had to get that for sure. The WWE officially releasing on a Friday Night SmackDown day. Of course, we had to get the promotion for it. Which, speaking of WWE 2K25, gotta say, pretty impressed by it. Game overall runs really well. They've added some real cool online stuff. Haven't had a chance to play their new island mode yet, but really liking it. I'm thinking we should stream it for anybody watching at some point too.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get together and do that. We'll give our complete thoughts on that game in another episode coming up soon. But yeah, not much from Heyman here. I mean, the same old stuff, just building up that match. And I think he did make mention that Roman Reigns is going to be there next week, so all three of them in the ring next week should be fantastic. And yeah, no doubt. Like we mentioned earlier in the episode, if that women's match isn't your night one main event, this is going to be your night one main event. 1,000%.
I would bet you $5 that this is the main event regardless.
You heard it, folks. I'm going to hold him to that. And then, then we had our main event, which
we're missing that other vignette, aren't we?
Oh, you're right. We are missing that other vignette. That was before this. I missed that completely. Yeah, that was interesting. I mean, it had the number 4, the little smoke thing going on. This kind of reminded, and I think it's going to be Aleister Black returning, or maybe as Malachi Black. We'll see. But it kind of reminded me of what they were sort of trying to do with him before he left WWE. The internet kind of seems to think it's going to be him, but I mean, I guess we'll have to sort of wait and see.
I honestly don't know who else it could be. Like there really weren't any other major releases that haven't already signed anywhere that it could be. So I just watch it randomly be like Becky Lynch or something. But but I feel like it has to be. But I figured it was at least worth mentioning.
Yeah, no, definitely. I completely missed that one. Yeah, then we had our main event, DIY, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa versus the Street Profits. And yeah, outstanding match. I mean, there's no doubt, right? Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins are just outstanding. Ford with that 450 splash thing that he does where he like jumps to the ceiling of the damn arena and hits him with that. And was interesting to see the sort of the couple of miscues by Gargano and Ciampa when they went to go for the fairy tale ending. They ended up hitting each other. But yeah, we've got new tag team champions on SmackDown, and that closed out your show. So what did you think of this match?
It was nice to see the Profits get the titles back for the first time in a while. I'm enjoying their heel run here. I'm a little bit disappointed to see DIY drop the title already. I feel like they never get a chance to hold the titles for long enough. But part of that is, for some reason, as a team, they just don't seem to get over with the crowd, which I don't understand because both of Gargano and Ciampa are fantastic. But crowds are fickle beasts, so tough to tell. And whereas the Street Profits are over regardless of heel or face, I think that Montez Ford is going to be a single star someday. And they need to milk what they can out of the Profits while they can because they are a fantastic tag team. And I think they hold the titles at minimum until at least SummerSlam. And I think that you see a multi-man tag team match for the SmackDown side of things with DIY, the Machine Guns, the Profits, and probably
Pretty deadly.
Pretty Deadly. I was forgetting their name for a second there. I almost called them Tyler Breeze and Fandango. But I feel like that's going to be your Mania match for those belts.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely, I completely agree. A+ match all around, and Montez is a star. It's a shame that he's probably never going to get the singles run that he deserves, but yeah, absolutely A+ match. SmackDown was good, not as good as Raw, I don't think, but this definitely helped further a bunch of WrestleMania stories. So
Wrestling
yeah,
as a whole was good. I give this week an A- as far as wrestling as a whole. I think I can agree with that.
Yeah. So yeah, so that is the first episode of our show. We'll try and get this up on all the platforms soon for you guys. Please leave us your comments. We're going to love to answer them and just engage with everybody. And we will be putting up an episode of this every week for you to give our recaps, as we build closer and closer to WrestleMania here. We'll do prediction videos before all of the big shows. We are certainly going to try and get some streams out for you of WWE 2K25. And then, as we get into the football season as well, we're going to certainly talk about that, and we'll be posting some other stuff. So stay on the lookout, guys. And we are really looking forward to to just interacting with you and just talking about what we love, the world of professional sports, professional wrestling. So,
and I'd like to say thanks for everybody who was watching. Hoping we can maybe make some videos talking about NFL free agency coming up over the next week or so too. And anybody who comes back, keep your comments coming. Any thoughts, any ideas that you want us to talk about? I'm sure we're both down. Gives us ideas things you want to hear. Like Mike said, we'll give our predictions. And with the road to WrestleMania ongoing, it's looking strong.
Looking strong. All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.